You've been doing everything right. The vision boards, the affirmations, the gratitude journals. You've watched every manifestation video, read every book, repeated every technique, and yet nothing. Your bank account looks the same. Your relationships haven't shifted. Your life feels stuck in the exact same place it was a year ago. And you're starting to wonder if this whole manifestation thing is just a lie. But what if the problem was never your technique? It was something you cannot see. Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody in the manifestation community wants to admit. You can affirm abundance 10,000 times a day, but if your subconscious mind is running a program that says you don't deserve it, those affirmations hit a wall every single time. Hidden blocks, silent sabotage. There are 7 invisible blocks buried deep inside your psyche right now, and they are actively destroying every manifestation you attempt. You didn't put them there. You probably don't even know they exist. But after the next few minutes, you will. And once you see them, they can never control you again. Before we expose the 7 blocks, you need to understand something critical about how your mind actually works. Because most people treat manifestation like ordering food from a menu. You place your order with the universe and wait for delivery. But manifestation doesn't work like that, not even close. Your conscious mind, the part reading affirmations and visualizing, controls only about 5% of your daily thoughts. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The other 95%, that's your subconscious. And here's where it gets terrifying. Your subconscious was programmed before you were 7 years old. Every belief about money, love, success, and worthiness was installed by your parents, your environment, and your earliest experiences. And most of that programming directly contradicts what you're trying to manifest. Think about it. You're standing in front of a mirror saying, "I am wealthy," while a voice buried deep inside whispers, "No, you're not, and you never will be." That's not a battle you can win with positive thinking. That's an invisible war. And right now, you're losing it. But that changes today because we're about to expose every single block that's been sabotaging you from the shadows. The first hidden block is the deepest and most destructive of them all. It's the unworthiness code, and almost everyone has it. This block doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "Hey, you feel unworthy." Instead, it disguises itself as logic. It sounds like reasonable thoughts. Things like, "People like me don't get that lucky," or "Who am I to want more than what I have?" Unworthiness. Dr. Brené Brown spent over 2 decades researching shame and vulnerability, and she found something disturbing. The vast majority of people carry a core belief that they are fundamentally not enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not deserving enough, and this belief was installed before you could even speak. Maybe your parents compared you to a sibling. Maybe you were told to be grateful for what you have and stop wanting more. Maybe love in your household was conditional, earned through performance, not given freely. Whatever the source, your subconscious recorded a simple equation: I am not enough. Now imagine trying to manifest abundance while running that program. It's like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. If this belief hit close to home, and I know it did for many of you, hit like and subscribe to reprogram more of these invisible blocks. Because the next one might be the exact one holding your manifestations hostage. And speaking of hidden programs about money specifically, the second hidden block is money guilt. And this one is sneaky because it often hides behind a mask of virtue. You might consciously want financial freedom. You might visualize a life of abundance. But deep down, your subconscious associates money with something negative, something dirty, something that makes you a bad person. Money is dirty. Where did this come from? Think back. Did you ever hear phrases like "money is the root of all evil," or "rich people are greedy," or "we may not have much, but at least we're honest"? These aren't just phrases. They're programming commands, and your 7-year-old brain absorbed them without question. A fascinating study from Cambridge University found that money beliefs are largely formed by age 7. By the time you're old enough to earn money, you've already decided whether having it makes you good or bad. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The irony, this guilt doesn't make you moral, it makes you broke. Because every time you get close to financial breakthrough, your subconscious hits the self-destruct button. You overspend, you sabotage opportunities, you give away what you should invest, not because you're generous, but because keeping money feels wrong. But this guilt about money connects directly to something even deeper. The third hidden block sounds completely irrational when you say it out loud: fear of success. Why would anyone be afraid of getting exactly what they want? Because success threatens the identity your subconscious has spent decades building. Your subconscious mind has one primary job: to keep you alive. And it does this by keeping things predictable, familiar, safe. even if familiar means broke, even if safe means stuck. Psychologist Gay Hendricks calls this the upper limit problem. He observed that people have an internal thermostat for how much success, wealth, and happiness they'll allow themselves to experience. Go above that limit, and your subconscious creates chaos to bring you back down. You unconsciously destroy good things because they feel unfamiliar and therefore dangerous. Maybe you've experienced this. Things start going well. A promotion, a new relationship, money flowing in, and suddenly you pick a fight. You make a bad financial decision. You get sick. That's not bad luck. That's your upper limit problem activating. Fear of success. Your subconscious is essentially saying, this isn't who we are. Get back to where it's safe. And until you expand your internal thermostat, no amount of manifesting will keep the good things in your life. But wait, because what comes next changes everything about how you see your past. The fourth block is perhaps the most disturbing one, because it's not even yours. It's inherited limitation, trauma and scarcity beliefs passed down through generations. And this isn't spiritual theory. This is biology. Epigenetics. In 2013, researchers at Emory University conducted a groundbreaking study. They exposed mice to the smell of cherry blossoms while simultaneously delivering a small electric shock. Eventually, the mice associated that scent with danger, but here's where it gets shocking. The offspring of those mice, who had never been shocked, also showed fear responses to cherry blossoms. The trauma had been passed down genetically. The sins of the fathers are visited upon the children to the third and fourth generation. Now apply this to your family. If your grandparents survived the Depression, that survival code, hoard, fear, never trust abundance, may be running in your DNA right now. If your parents grew up in poverty, their scarcity programming didn't just shape their lives, it shaped your biology. You are not just fighting your own beliefs. You are fighting generations of programming. You might be affirming wealth while carrying the survival code of ancestors who lost everything, and you wonder why your manifestations aren't working. This brings us to something that operates on an even more personal level. The fifth hidden block is identity attachment, and this one is the cage you built around yourself without even realizing it. You see, your subconscious doesn't just hold beliefs, it holds an entire identity, a story of who you are. And that story has become so familiar that it feels like truth. I am not rich. I'm not the kind of person who has money. I've always struggled. I'm not lucky like other people. These aren't just thoughts, they're identity statements. And your subconscious will fight to the death to prove them right. Neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that your brain literally creates neural pathways that reinforce your identity. Every thought you repeat becomes a highway in your brain that your mind travels automatically. So when you try to manifest wealth, your brain says, wait, that doesn't match our identity, and it pulls you back to the story it knows. This is why some people win the lottery and go broke within 5 years. The money changed, but the identity didn't. You cannot manifest a life that contradicts who you believe you are. You'll always return to the financial thermostat set by your identity, always, unless you change the story at its root. And that root is tangled with something most people never examine. The sixth hidden block is unforgiveness. And before you skip ahead thinking this doesn't apply to you, listen carefully. Because this block doesn't require obvious hatred. It operates in the background, like a program running silently, draining your battery. Every resentment you carry is a manifestation blocker, disguised as justified anger. Here's why. Manifestation requires you to vibrate at the frequency of what you want. Abundance, love, freedom. These are high-frequency states, but resentment, bitterness, and unforgiveness, those are some of the lowest frequency emotions that exist. You cannot tune into an abundance frequency while carrying the static of resentment. It's like trying to pick up a classical music station while your radio is jammed on heavy metal. Holding onto anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And here's what makes this block particularly invisible. You might have forgiven on the surface. You said the words, you moved on with your life. But your subconscious, it's still keeping score. That parent who wasn't there, that partner who betrayed you, that boss who humiliated you. Resentment blocks abundance. Your subconscious is using all that unresolved pain as evidence that the world is unsafe and that you don't deserve good things. And until you truly release it, not just intellectually, but emotionally, your manifestations stay blocked. But this leads us to the block that might be the hardest one to accept. The seventh and final hidden block is the most paradoxical one. You are addicted to lack. Addicted. I know that sounds harsh. Nobody would consciously choose to be broke, stuck, or unfulfilled. But your subconscious doesn't operate on logic, it operates on chemistry. Every emotion you feel creates a chemical cocktail in your brain. Feel stress, your body floods with cortisol. Feel lack, your brain produces a specific neurochemical signature. And when you've been experiencing lack for years, decades, your body becomes chemically dependent on that state. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research shows that your body literally sends signals to your brain demanding the same emotional states it's used to. So when things start improving, when abundance starts flowing, your body feels uncomfortable, something feels off, and your subconscious interprets that discomfort as danger. Your body is so used to struggling that peace and abundance feel like a threat. This is why people unconsciously recreate financial crises, why they push away opportunities, why they feel anxious when things are going too well. Addicted to struggle, they're not unlucky. They're chemically dependent on the emotional state of not having enough, and manifestation cannot override a biochemical addiction. You have to break the cycle at the cellular level. And that brings us to exactly how you dissolve these blocks. Now that you can see these 7 blocks, unworthiness, money guilt, fear of success, inherited trauma, identity attachment, unforgiveness, and addiction to lack, the question becomes, how do you dissolve them? And here's where most people make a critical mistake. They try to think their way out. More affirmations, more positive thinking, more visualization, but you cannot solve a subconscious problem with conscious effort alone. 1. Awareness is the first key. You just took this step. 2. Feel the emotion behind the block. Don't suppress it. 3. Rewrite the story through repetition and embodiment. 4. Create new experiences that contradict old beliefs. The blocks were installed through emotional experiences, not intellectual ideas, so they must be dissolved through emotional experiences. When the unworthiness block activates and you hear that voice saying you don't deserve it, you have to feel that pain fully, not push it away, not cover it with an affirmation. Feel it. Because what you can feel, you can heal. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Then and only then can you install a new program. Not by lying to yourself, but by creating small, real experiences that prove the old belief wrong. Every time you act despite the block, you weaken its hold on your subconscious. Each act of courage against your programming rewires a neural pathway. Each moment of allowing yourself to receive creates a new chemical signature. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neuroscience, and it leads to the most important realization of all. Here's what the entire manifestation industry doesn't tell you. The real secret isn't about attracting anything external. Manifestation is the process of becoming the person who naturally receives what they desire. When you dissolve the unworthiness code, you stop repelling abundance. When you release money guilt, wealth can finally flow to you without resistance. When you expand your upper limit, success no longer triggers self-sabotage. When you break the generational chains, you stop repeating ancestral patterns. When you rewrite your identity, your reality rearranges itself to match. When you forgive fully, you clear the channel for receiving. And when you break the addiction to lack, your body stops demanding struggle. Remove the blocks. You don't need a new technique. You don't need another book. You don't need the universe to send you a sign. You need to remove the invisible walls between you and everything you have been asking for. The abundance is already there. It's always been there. You've just been standing behind 7 layers of subconscious glass, pressing your face against a life you could see but could never touch. Now you hold the keys. The question is, will you use them? These 7 blocks have been running your life from the shadows. Unworthiness telling you that you don't deserve it. Money guilt convincing you that wanting more makes you selfish. Fear of success pulling you back every time you get close. Inherited trauma replaying your ancestors' scarcity on loop. Identity attachment keeping you trapped in a story that was never yours to begin with. Unforgiveness jamming your frequency with static. And the addiction to lack making struggle feel more comfortable than success. 7 blocks exposed. But here's what matters most. You can see them now. And what you can see, you can change. Manifestation was never broken. Your technique was never wrong. The universe was never ignoring you. You were simply trying to pour water into a cup that had 7 holes in the bottom. Now you know where those holes are. Now you can seal them. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. If you made it this far, comment blocks dissolved if you felt something shift inside you while watching this. Because that shift, that's the beginning of everything changing. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it.